Hey, good morning, everybody. Dirk Beveridge here, founder of Unleash WD for, I believe, our third unapologetic live, LinkedIn Live, as we are kicking off 2022. Thanks so much for joining us. We have a real important conversation today. As you are coming in, let me know that you are here on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on YouTube. I really appreciate you being here. And as I say, we've got a very important conversation today where we're going to talk about obliterating some false narratives throughout wholesale distribution. You know, this morning as I was thinking about what we're going to be talking about today, the term under the radar came to me. And I think today's conversation as you come in is real important because I believe it's under the radar. With so much going on, right? We got supply chain issues. We've got technology issues. We've got the great resignation issue. We've got non-traditional competitive issues. We've got labor issues. There's so much coming at us. But underneath the surface is what I believe are these false narratives that we absolutely need to have a conversation about. I'll set it up for us. But at the core of what we're going to be talking about today is what I found to be two conflicting realities about distribution. Reality number one is that distribution is not just essential, it truly is the backbone, critical for our society and our country. But then conflicting with that, what I found, what I discovered, what I believe is that the internal within our own organization and the external outside of our organization, the narrative does not match up with reality number one because of these false narratives that we'll explore, okay? So thanks for coming in, everybody. Let me know that you're here. Let me know where you're from. I'm excited about this very, very important conversation that we're going to have together. But as you're coming in, let me know where you are, and we're going to get started in exactly 2 minutes, okay? Here we go, everybody. All right, everybody, good morning, good morning, good morning. I just got pinged. I don't know if Bethany from Kansas City was telling me to keep dancing, stop dancing, or whatever, but I am excited that you guys are here. Hey, thanks so much for coming in, and we're going to have this very important conversation, but just let me real quick say hello to some of you that have joined us. Mr. Kennedy, Paul, great seeing you, my friend. Hope and trust you are well. Will, great to see you. A lot of this has been generated through some of our brainstorming, so thank you. Jim Banovich, man, I think of you all the time, you and your amazing team up there at Marsh Electronics. Travis, I am sorry to disappoint. Nope, I still no bow tie one of these days. Angie, great to see you. I'm looking forward to our conversation on Monday with your CEO. We're going to have a great conversation talking about your meeting in June. So thank you for that. Bob, great to see you. Yes, on this oldest day of the season. When I first saw that, I thought you were saying something about the oldest guy streaming or something like that. But we'll take the oldest day of the year. Rod, very good to see you from Virginia. Thank you for joining us. Jen. I think of the tears that were shed that day in your warehouse when we celebrated not only We Supply America, but the amazing history of Edney. Thanks for having us up there last year. Joanna, so good to see you. And sunny Minneapolis, send some of it down here to Chicago. Let's see, Bob. Did I say hi there? Yep, Bob, good morning. Susan, good to see you. It's snowing up there. Tom, Gail, my friend, it has been too long. Let's you and I connect. I absolutely continue to love what you do at MDM. You are the news source for distribution, and I appreciate all that you do. We've got Robin, thank you so very much. Kim, if I'm not going to get you all, I apologize. There's Junior, there's Scott. Thank you so much. Good morning, Scott. And Brooke, great to see you as well. I'm looking forward to this discussion as well. So keep coming on. And guys, as we go on, let me know what you're thinking about what we're talking about, all right? So let's get into this. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about 6 false narratives, all right? Now, where did these come from? Some of you are new to us, so let me just share with you the context of where these false narratives came from. Some of you know, some of you might not know that last summer, we spent 97 days out on the road championing the noble calling of distribution, where we crisscrossed this country and we worked with 34 different distributors, or we met with 34 different distributors to really go out there and champion the importance of and the goodness of distribution. We're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about the narratives that came out of that. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with this context of We Supply America, let me just share with you a minute and a half of what we did last year and where the information that we're going to share with you came from. Here you go. In a world of social distancing, remote working, personal challenges, and business disruption, there are businesses with their committed, caring, and passionate professionals who kept America supplied. Distribution. It's much more than meets the eye. The pandemic shined a light on the imperative nature of supply. That light, the noble calling of distribution.
This is about patriotism. This is about the backbone of the American economy. Yeah. To be a part of helping you tell that story and to share some passion and enthusiasm for that, dude, that was cool.
The role that we play, especially during COVID, as essential workers, is making sure that we are getting the material that those contractors need to continue that growth.
These are the inspirational stories and lessons from across America. This is We Supply America.
I'll tell you what, I've never worked for a company that treats their employees as well as the Porter Boys do.
Yeah.
I mean, they treat me better than any boss I've ever had, including myself when I had my own business for 20 years now.
We're honored to have you, Harold. We really are. We're blessed.
I love it here. That's all I can say.
We love you.
It's all that backbone that you don't see.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Yeah. You know, that's We Supply America. And if you have not looked at our 8 featured films and everything else, you can see that at wesupplyamerica.net. But, you know, as I'm watching that again, I'm thinking to myself, you know, I'm a consultant to the industry. Those of you in distribution, when you see that trailer, when you think about everything you'll witness at wesupplyamerica.net, you all have something special going on. I mean, real special going on. Special and important on so many different levels. Which brings me to today's conversation and the 2 realities as I crossed this country that came to the forefront of my mind. Reality number 1 is that, as we just saw in that trailer for We Supply America, Distribution, what you do is absolutely critical. It's absolutely, what you do day in and day out is absolutely the backbone of a country. As I said, we don't have what we have unless the pickers, the drivers, those on the receiving docks, those on the shipping docks, those in administration, those in operation, those in marketing, unless those in your distribution do the things that they do, you do, we don't have what we have. And so reality number one is this absolute noble calling of distribution. Now, conflicting with that first reality is I don't believe that the internal, within our four walls, and external, outside of our four walls, I don't believe that narrative lines up with that first reality. You know, think about the business narrative. When I talk about the external narrative, you know, it's hard for us, you know, family, independent owned distribution business, small to mid-market type business. It's hard for us to compete in the business world, in the narrative, in the news. When billionaires are blasting off into space, it's hard for us to compete for that narrative. When Tesla and Apple and Google and Netflix and everybody out in Silicon Valley and all that, they dominate the news. It's hard to get a word, if you will, into that narrative. Or when you think about the narrative coming out of New York and Wall Street, right? That's what the narrative is all about. And by the way, the narrative out of Wall Street is not good. The narrative about business is not always that business is a positive force when they're talking about Wall Street and the like. So there's that external narrative. And then you look at the narrative about distribution. And when I look at the general narrative out there, I don't see much. In fact, that was one of the catalysts for me going out on the road on We Supply America, because I searched for stories about the goodness, the importance, yes, the nobleness of distribution. And I couldn't find them. Here's a picture of me with the team in Denver, Colorado with General Air. I mean, they are such an amazing organization. You know what their employees call General Air? They call them Goodness Air, because they provide goodness to their employees and their customers and their market. That's their employees talking about themselves that way. But I was looking for those stories and they weren't there. So I went out on the road. So the external narrative, there isn't the story about the noble calling of distribution, about what you do. And so as I was talking about this issue, about the external narrative on a podcast last summer, the person I was being interviewed with said, you know, Dirk, I think you're right. He said, I think we have a PR problem here in distribution. And my response then was, no. I don't think, maybe we have a PR problem, but that's not what we should be focused on first. Yes, the external narrative, right, is not positive towards distribution. But let's not focus on the PR problem first, when we also might have a narrative problem within our four walls. That's where I think this conversation needs to start, because I do believe what I heard were what we'll call these false narratives within our four walls, easy for me to say, that are holding us in distribution back. I mean, have you heard about, you know, the fact that what we sell is a commodity? Have you heard that word? And by the way, when we say that, what does everybody do? They shake their head yes. In a sense, they're saying we can't compete. When we say that, you know, selling and distribution, being that middleman, it comes down to price and price alone. I hear that almost every day. Have you heard that? That's a narrative that's saying we're going to have a hard time and maybe inability to compete when others have lower cost structures. I hear all the time about the difficulties and, you know, that we can't attract a talent to distribution. Have you heard people talking like that? That's a narrative inside our wall. Have you ever heard, and we'll talk about this more, that distribution isn't sexy? So my point is, there's an external narrative, but I think even more important, we don't start with the PR effort about the external. I think we start by looking internally to our four walls. Does that make sense, you guys? I think that's where we start. You see, when I talk about these false narratives, what I'd like to suggest for conversation today, and again, I believe this is a very important conversation. I believe it's under the radar because every day we're dealing with supply chain issues, we're dealing with talent issues, we're dealing with competitive issues, we're dealing with disruptive forces, all of that. But underneath the surface is this critical issue of mental models that could be holding us back in our businesses. And when I talk about mental models, said another way, these mental models are these false narratives that I think you and I must commit to being aware of, addressing, owning these false narratives, and ultimately obliterating these false narratives, obliterating them from the conversation within our four walls and certainly throughout distribution. So what is a false narrative? What is a false narrative? Before we look at the 6 that I'd like to suggest that we start at here in distribution, let me share with you from history what I'm talking about here. 2 false narratives, and I think it sets the stage in the context, all right? So in history, during the Middle Ages, now that was, I wasn't even alive then, all right? Long time ago, but during the Middle Ages, it was a fact. It was a fact that the world was flat, right? I mean, it was so known as the truth that if you questioned it, if you had another point of view, maybe that it was a sphere. Individuals like Galileo, when individuals would question that truth, they were imprisoned. They were ostracized. My point is, there was a mental model that said that the world was flat back then. Everybody believed it. Everybody shake their head yes, and they didn't question it anymore. It was said so often that it became fact, when in fact, it wasn't fact. When in fact, it wasn't truth. It was a false narrative that held the world back. Does it make sense? Let me give you another example, maybe a little closer, but still several decades ago. And this is one close to my heart. You can't see it. It's off camera over there. I got a jersey of Wayne Gretzky, a signed jersey of Wayne Gretzky. We're a hockey family. I'm a hockey fan. And so this next example goes back to 1980 and the USA men's hockey team. I mean, you know the story, right? I mean, out of nowhere, this team of amateurs were put together to compete in the 1980 Olympics in Lake Placid against the almighty Soviet Union, who had never lost a game in decades, I believe. But you know the story. Mike Erozione, the captain of the team, there is celebrating that they just beat Czechoslovakia here, and then, they beat the Soviet Union here, and then to go on to the gold medal game. But here's my point. This win against the Soviet Union was not ordained. In fact, the mental model, the narrative said this couldn't be done. Just a week before that game, when the USA beat the Soviet Union, this exact same team played the Soviet Union in Madison Square Garden, and the USA team of amateurs was absolutely annihilated by the Soviet army, by the Soviet team, 10-3. And the score doesn't even really communicate the lopsidedness of that game. I mean, this was the narrative. This was the narrative that the Soviet Union could not be beat. But this happened. How? When the world knew, when the narrative was, the Soviet Union is going to annihilate everybody they play. Well, it starts with acknowledging, owning, and then obliterating the false narrative. One of the greatest movies in my mind of all time is Miracle on Ice. And there's a 2-minute clip in there of Kurt Russell playing Herb Brooks, the coach, in the locker room right before this game against the Soviet Union. And what he does is he obliterates the false narrative. Let's just take 2 minutes.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. And that's what you have here tonight, boys. That's what you've earned here tonight. One game. If we played them 10 times, they might win 9. But not this game. Not tonight. Tonight, we skate with them. Tonight, we stay with them. And we shut them down because we can. Tonight, we are the greatest hockey team in the world. You were born to be hockey players. Every one of you. And you were meant to be here tonight. This is your time. Their time is done. It's over. I'm sick and tired of hearing about what a great hockey team the Soviets have. Screw them. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
Isn't that amazing? Jim, you say great movie. Lynette, you say great movie. I agree. My point is this. Yes, it's a great movie. Yes, that's a great scene. Yes, that's a great moment. But what's the lesson of that scene? What's the lesson of that moment? What the lesson in my mind of that moment is that everywhere we look, there are false narratives that we have assumed. That's not even the right word. There are false narratives that we have embraced as truth, that are anything but truth. And as Herb Brooks looked at his team there and said, this is your moment. You know what went through my mind? Those of you in distribution, this is your moment. 2022 is your moment to absolutely be unapologetic about what you do, why you do it, how you do it, and yes, the nobleness of what you do going forward. You see, we have identified a series of false narratives. Today, what I'd like to do is I'd like to preview 6 false narratives that I believe are truly holding us back. Yes, we absolutely are essential. Yes, we are absolutely the backbone of this country, but we also have some work to do. I think we have some work to do within our 4 walls to absolutely be unapologetic and approach and attack these narratives that are holding distribution back. Now, we're going to preview these 6 today, but after we're done today, I'd encourage you to go to obliterate.wesupplyamerica.net. And when you go to obliterate.wesupplyamerica.net, you're going to have the opportunity to register or sign up for a series of 6 free trainings that we're going to facilitate over the next 6 months to roll up our sleeves and to dive deep into these false narratives and to see how they are impacting our business, to what degree they are impacting our business, and what you as a leader can do with your team to obliterate that and move your organization past that false narrative. All right. So I'll remind you of that at the end here. But let's get into the 6 false narratives. I'd like to give you a preview of each of these 6 false narratives. And as you hear these 6 narratives, I'd like your comments. Do you agree that it's false narrative? Do you agree with the truth, the alternative that I'm going to suggest to you? And let's begin that dialogue here that will continue in the free trainings over the next 6 months. All right, here we go. Ready? I have to start with this one. False narrative number 1 is that distribution isn't sexy. I mean, how many times? How many times have you heard that exact statement, that this isn't a sexy business? We sell toilets. It ain't sexy. Yeah, we sell pipe. It ain't sexy. Yeah, we sell lighting. We sell building materials. We sell appliances. What happens is we've fallen into this trap. And when we say that, what are we really saying? What's the ramification when we say to ourselves, when we say to recruits? I've heard it as we're recruiting people. When we say it internally in our four walls, what's the ramification of that? Well, I believe the ramification of it is saying that what we're doing is not important. I think when we say that distribution isn't sexy, I think what we're saying is that there are more meaningful jobs out there. I think when we say that distribution isn't sexy, we're saying, you know what? Don't even look at distribution. Go look out of Silicon Valley. Go look in finance. Go look in manufacturing. Go look somewhere else for your career. That's, I think, the ramification. And see, what I find and what I believe, and again, I'd love your input here, you guys. What I believe is the alternative to this false narrative. And here, these are my words coming off of We Supply America, being immersed throughout the entire summer, crossing this country, walking 34 different distribution centers. I think the truth is it's damn cool. Are you kidding me? It's damn cool what you do being the backbone of the country. I think it's sexy as hell that during this pandemic, it was distribution that allowed hospitals to get the health, safety, and cleanly products, if you will, to be able to provide the health care that this country needed. To me, that's sexy. Providing those same type of products to schools to help our kids get back into school, I don't know about you. I don't think it's noble, but I think it's sexy. I think the fact that we have the absolute world standard in terms of sanitation, because of those of you in the plumbing industry, you want to know something? I believe that to be absolutely sexy as hell. You know, I was thinking about this. When I drive to downtown Chicago and I see those high rises, what are they called? Don't get old like me. Skyscrapers, there's the word. When I see those skyscrapers, and I think about the door systems that have put in there that came through distribution. When I think about the piping that came through distribution. When I think about the electrical system that came through distribution. When I think about the HVAC that came through distribution. When I think about that city is there because of what you do. I don't know about you. I find that to be very, very sexy. And I think this is a false narrative that we absolutely have to address. We have to acknowledge it. And we have to turn that narrative around if we're going to be successful going forward in recruiting the talent that we need, recruiting the data scientists that we need, recruiting the marketing that we need, recruiting the operation and strategists that we need. Oh, we could go down that line. Recruiting the drivers and the warehouse associates that we need. A number of times on the We Supply America tour, some people said to me, Dirk, if your business isn't sexy, you got to look in the mirror. We have a choice to make it sexy. Does that make sense, you guys? I'd absolutely love your thoughts, your comments. So, false narrative number one, we have to obliterate that distribution isn't sexy, and we can, and we will. Number two, the second false narrative that I continue to hear out there where we have to do some work is that technology is too hard and it's too costly to implement. Technology is too hard, too costly to implement. We don't have the right people to implement technology. There's a litany of reasons that say that the investment can't or won't be made in terms of the technology. Here's what I have found. What I have found is the truth is that the technology needed to win is within the grasp of every distributor. The technology, the implementation of it, the costs have come down. The ability to bring it into your organization is there. What it comes down to is a mindset. It starts with the absolute mindset. When I did the research for the NAW on this book, Innovate, I tell a story. I don't know if it's chapter 2 or chapter 3, but I tell a story in there about a $50 million distributor who had come to the conclusion, their mental model, their narrative inside their four walls, $50 million company, distributor, had a $15,000 a year budget for their IT. $15,000 a year. And their business ran a $50 million business on a $15,000 a year IT budget. True story. And their mental model was that was a competitive advantage because everybody else was spending more money on IT. This helped lower this $50 million distributor's costs. Does it make sense? So their mental model was that it was a competitive advantage. Well, it so happened they attended our Unleash Innovation Summit, had conversations with different individuals, opened up their minds, thought differently, and they left Chicago. They left that summit realizing that was a false narrative. That mindset of $15,000 a year wasn't a competitive advantage. They left with a new mental model that said it was a competitive disadvantage. And it was that mental model that absolutely drove their thinking, drove their strategic planning, drove their capital investments, and absolutely drove them to becoming a digital distributor that they are now. My point is, hey, look, no rose-colored glasses. It's expensive. It's hard, but it's in your grasp. It begins with the mental model. So look at number 3. This might be on the surface. The most controversial. All right, so stick with me here. The third false narrative that we're going to have to roll our sleeves up, think deeply about, and obliterate. The third false narrative is that people are our greatest assets. Have you heard that? Yeah. I hear it all the time. And you know what? After about the 3rd, 5th, 8th, 10th, 20th time hearing it while I'm out on the We Supply America tour, I got to tell you something. I started to cringe. Because think about that. Now I know what it means. I know how it served us, and I know what we're trying to communicate there. But when we say that our people are our greatest asset, what we're saying is our people are a resource. They're a human resource. You know what? No, I think that's a false narrative. I think we're going to have to really think deeply about even the term in the Department of Human Resources in distribution. Because here's the point. Here's the truth. Your people are not found on a balance sheet. They're not an asset. They are individuals with goals. They are individuals with dreams. They are individuals with hopes. They are individuals who are trying to fulfill their potential. And one of the amazing things that I saw during the We Supply America tour, in fact, our second ethos of our 7 ethos of the noble calling of leadership that came out of that is in fact people. And when I walked into your distribution businesses, what I saw, and it wasn't articulated this way, but what I saw was I didn't see us treating our people as our greatest asset. I saw us treating them as human beings with souls, with dreams, with goals. What I saw is that in these distribution businesses that I went to, talking about being noble, what I saw were platforms for the personal and the professional growth of our people. That is noble. That is what we're doing with employees and helping our employees grow personally and professionally. So yes, I understand what we have been communicating over the years, that our people are our greatest assets. But I think today, as we go into this post-pandemic world where, you know, one of the things I say is one of the greatest lessons that I learned from my We Supply America tour is that at its core, I believe, distribution is human. It's human. And those organizations that going forward don't look at their people as our greatest assets, but look at them as humanity. Look at them as humans, as individuals, as people. And have that commitment and yes, the investment to not only help this company grow, but importantly, to help our people grow, develop personally and professionally. That is what is going to help distribution go forward. Let's take a look at number 4, right? Have you heard this, right? Middlemen don't add value. I mean, this false narrative has been there for years. And you want to know something? I'm getting tired of it. How about you? Right? There's always articles about disinformation. There's always articles about how distributors, add costs. There's always articles about how we as the middleman, right, don't add value, and that's why manufacturers are going to start going direct, all that type of stuff, right? Because we got to attack this. We got to get on the offense. We have to absolutely obliterate. We cannot accept this. We have to be ready when people, when our suppliers, when our customers, when our employees, when our recruits tell us that those distributors, we're the middleman and we don't have value. No, we got to obliterate that. We cannot accept it anymore going forward. See, the truth is your customers, your market, and your local community is not supplied without the middleman. The schools don't open without you. The hospitals don't provide health care without you. We could go down that list. But I think for years we've tacitly, is that the word? We've absolutely tacitly have accepted, and we've allowed people to make that argument. What do you say we band together? What do you say we band together and we absolutely acknowledge, attack, and obliterate that false narrative forever? Let's do it. Let's take a look at false narrative number 5. And this is, I think this might be my favorite. I call this, I'm just a. Have you, as you're working with the people in your business, have you ever heard, when I went and talked to individuals on the We Supply America tour, I had a chance to meet people I've never met before. I said, so what do you do here? And I started to cringe with these words, I'm just a. In fact, I believe we need to obliterate the word just from our vocabulary. Would you do me a favor? Take your pen right now and write down the word just, cross it out, because going forward, we have to absolutely obliterate the word just from our vocabulary throughout distribution. I asked, what do you do here? I'm just a driver. Have you heard it? I'm just a picker. Have you heard it? I'm just in inside sales. Have you heard it? Put any title in there. Because your people are saying it every day. I'm just a. And when you hear them say that, what are most of our reactions? Most of our reaction is to accept that. We have to stop that. We have to obliterate that. See, the truth is every job and every position is needed and dignified. It's needed and dignified. Paul Kennedy, thanks for being on here with us today. But as I'm talking here, what comes to my mind is the time that I spent with you all up in your warehouse, DC, up in the Minneapolis area. And I remember meeting Rich, who was the transfer manager there. And I remember asking Rich, what does he do here? And what's kept him here for 30 years, I think, or 20 years. And his immediate response was, I love what I do. And then he looked over at the management team that was there and he said, and they love what I do too. There's dignity. There's respect. There's an understanding of the importance of every job. And so the next time we hear somebody say, I'm just a, would you do me a favor? Stop them. Invite them out to lunch. Have a conversation. And let's talk about the dignity of what they do. Let's give them the respect that they deserve. And even if we're giving it to them, maybe they haven't felt it. If they're saying, I'm just, they're not feeling that respect. We have to obliterate that, and we will going forward. All right. And then number 6, I think this is super important as well. Number 6 is what I call soft skills are soft. Soft skills are soft. Let me get right to the truth. The truth here is that your business is dependent on the personal values and relationships among all employees. You guys, I look at the training, I look at the development that's going on throughout this, and it's great. It's amazing. We're part of it. Texas A&M is part of it. UID is part of it. I'm going to be out at UID. I mean, the work that the other industry consultants do, it's actually good. Your own internal training development department is good work. It's amazing work. But I think we're missing something here. You see, I think we have to rethink investing in soft skills. Because when I went out on the We Supply America tour, what I saw really drove your businesses was not the technology. Technology was important, don't get me wrong. It was not the selling skills. Don't get me wrong. Selling skills are amazing. It was not the operational excellence. Don't get me wrong. It's important. Those hard skills are important. But we cannot ignore the soft skills. Because all of that, the only reason why those hard skills work is because of the values in your organization, because of the culture that you're developing, because of the behaviors within your organization. These soft skills are what we absolutely need to focus on just as much, invest just as much going forward. You know, at Unleash WD, we have this vision and we have this belief in this mission that we're in the business of helping distribution thrive and be the channel of choice. And in order for distribution to thrive and to be the channel of choice, all 30,000 distributors and all the hundreds of thousands of branches need to thrive. And in order for those branches and those 30,000 businesses to thrive, all 6 million individuals throughout distribution need to thrive. And what that suggests is we need to rethink our investment in the development of our people. And we need to rethink those soft skills around culture, around values, around behaviors to ensure that we're all aligned and bringing those values and behaviors that are going to drive this industry, this country, and this company into the future. So, number 6. So guys, these are 6 false narratives that I'm passionate about, that I believe we need to absolutely acknowledge, we need to address, and we need to band together to absolutely obliterate. Would you agree? Let me know. I see some comments coming in just a little bit. I'll come back to those comments, but I'd really love to understand your thinking. So what I've just tried to do is try to stir the pot. I've tried to give a quick preview, right? That we have these mental models all the way from the world is flat to the Soviets can't be beat to distribution isn't sexy and the 5 others that we talked about. And you know what? These truths are not truths. And we absolutely need to address them and obliterate them. So what I encourage you to do is join us on this journey to obliterate these false narratives. You can do that by going to obliterate.wesupplyamerica.net. And when you get there, you're going to have the opportunity to subscribe or join us for a 6-part free training series. This 6-part free training series, what we're going to do is we're going to meet on the second Thursday of each month, February through June. We're going to take one of these 6 false narratives each month. And we're, as I said, we're going to roll up the sleeves and we're going to absolutely attack that false narrative. We're going to dive in and we're going to look at the root cause of that false narrative. We're going to look at the ramification of that false narrative in your business. We're going to have guests, distribution guests, your peers, who have absolutely acknowledged and attacked and obliterated that false narrative. And we're going to learn the lessons of why they did it, how they did it, what the outcomes of that was, and what were the lessons we can take from them into our business. And then we're also going to be providing to you new mental model frameworks that you're going to be able to bring back to your business, that you're going to be able to bring back to your business and to your team. In fact, I hope your team joins you on these free trainings, because then you'll be able to work through that tool, that resource that you're going to download as a PDF to absolutely work through obliterating these false narratives. All right. So again, I encourage you to go to obliterate.wesupplyamerica.net. And then here I'm actually live here. And here's where you'll be driven to this page, and you'll see a little overview. If you want to share this with everybody, I'd appreciate that. If you'd share this wide throughout distribution, a little introduction to it. You can register to join us free. And then you'll see the series schedule. You'll see the 6 false narratives. And as you roll over it, you'll see the date and then the truth. And you'll see the second Tuesday of each month, February through July, we're going to roll up our sleeves and tackle this. In order to bring this to you, I'd like to thank our sponsors, of course, ourselves, Unleash WD, our amazing partner in Infor, who's going to be back. Thank you so much for We Supply America Season 2. Oh, did I let something out? Yeah, the next 30 days, some big announcements we're going to be making. And our new sponsors that I've had a chance to meet and just have a ton of respect for, Slim Stock. And so we couldn't offer this free series of 6 trainings without Infor and Slim Stock. So to them, thank you very much. So again, I encourage you to go to obliterate.wesupplyamerica.net. And I really look forward to developing a community around this need and this desire to obliterate these false narratives. And by the way, I know we're going to find some others. In fact, I got a 7th in my pocket that I think is super important that we'll talk about. All right. So let me kind of put a bow around it, summarize what we talked about today. 2 conflicting realities. Reality number 1 is that you are the backbone of this country. I have so much damn respect for everything you do. Everything you do. But we have to acknowledge that the internal and the external narrative does not support the reality because of these false narratives. And what I'm jazzed, what I'm energized about is to have the opportunity over the next 6 months to do the work. Yeah, there you go. There's the words. To actually do the work to once and for all obliterate these to help move our businesses forward. Really looking forward to that. Let me see if this works. Guys, I really appreciate you being here with us. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know if you're going to be joining us. Let me see here. Let me see if this works. I'm going to try to put up some of the comments. Hey, it does. All right, this is super cool. So thanks. So this goes back to some of the things. Will, thanks so much. Yeah, the Porter Pipe footage, absolutely amazing. Jim, you're talking to Brooke. Thank you so much. Great movie. Agreed. Great movie. Tom Gale as a Minnesota guy for 25 years. That was amazing, wasn't it? This is amazing. Love it. Tom, thank you so much for being here. Lance says, I was honestly skeptical of Dirk. And right now we are on 0.1 and 100% agree of what he's saying. Lance, well, thank you so much. And you know what? I appreciate that. I appreciate what you say there. And thanks for being with us. I hope after 0.1 too, it all made sense. By the way, let me acknowledge that. Lance, I don't have all the answers. I don't. That's why I love getting people together in these LinkedIn Lives every Thursday with this unapologetic. This is why I went out on the road with We Supply America to learn and to listen. That's why I'm looking forward to these 6 series of trainings so that we can collaborate together. I don't have all the answers, but we're going to drive a lot of the conversation with y'all. Patrick, what we do is sexy. Hallelujah, Patrick. I love it. I love it. We improve the quality of lives of everyone in this country. Patrick, you guys do, and I super appreciate it. Jerry, it's all about our perception, which can become reality. That's what we're talking about. Hey, Greg, really good to see you, my friend. John McNaughton, the second son of the founder of McNaughton McKay, used to always say distribution is a dull business, but never boring. I love it. You're right? Let's acknowledge it. Let's talk about it. And he say that sexy is better. Keep it up, Greg. Thank you. I think you're in retirement, man. I hope things are well for you. Would love to connect. Susan says, preach, distribution is the country's best kept secret. Trademark that, Susan. You're right. Absolutely. Jerry, technology can underpin personal relationships. Guys, I really appreciate this. Let's continue to have these conversations. Gary, build a team. Everyone's contribution is important and crucial to hitting our goals. Absolutely. We're going to be talking about that as we do this. We are seeing a lot of poaching of talent from distribution by manufacturers they sell for. Brooke, we got to stop that, right? Let's think about that. That's what I want to do in some of these trainings as we get together. I just heard a story of a brilliant 26-year-old distribution center manager being poached from a distributor, mid-market distributor, and it tore me apart. And I truly am lying awake at night saying, what can we do together? And I think these 6 narratives can help us. They're not everything, but they can help us stop this poaching because talent is a critical issue for us going forward, and we need to talk about it. So Gary says, treat your people like family. Hallelujah. Thank you so very much, Gary. But remember that they are not family. They have their own personal family needs, problems, concerns, dreams. Help them succeed, and they will help you succeed. Hold on, everybody. Real quick. Sorry, I probably shouldn't do this. But Gary, you're absolutely right. And that, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the 7 ethos of the noble calling of leadership that we uncovered through the We Supply America tour. And you're hitting it right on the head. Patrick, middlemen have the greatest ability to add value. True story. Jim, distribution doesn't add value. It makes my blood boil. Let me see, Tyler. So Tyler says the greatest argument of middlemen and women is that we protect the manufacturers from a race to the bottom. Direct to the consumer means simply whoever is willing to sell for the least margin sale. No concern for service or product integrity. The consumer and many dealers are blind without our level of distribution. Hallelujah. Thank you. Let's go obliterate, Jerry. I'm with you. Jeff Jekyll, great to see you, my friend. It was great seeing you in Dallas. What you guys do up there in Madison and throughout to help your flooring dealers and the like, I believe that to be noble as hell, and to help us live our lives comfortably and like. Jeff, thanks so very much. Susan says, please get the folks from Bender on a module. We're going to. Absolutely. Joe, love to see you. Thanks. Jim, great to see you again. Brenda says, thank you, Dirk. Brenda, I miss you. I love the time with you down there and the like. So thank you also very much. Sherry, many of us grew up in distribution. It's so important that we carry our legacy into future generations. Sherry, let's do it together. And if you can, help us spread the word. Let's get everybody to obliterate.wesupplyamerica.net. Let's develop a community that's committed to doing this, rolling up the sleeves. I'm not going to be the one with all the answers, but together we can generate the ideas to obliterate these and the other false narratives that will rise through the conversation. Okay, everybody? Hey, thanks so much for joining us. Again, I went longer than I say I'm going to, but I really appreciate it. Jim Lucy, thank you so much. Great format, great message. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. Everybody, thanks for joining me. Hey, we're here every Thursday at 9 a.m. throughout at least the early part of June before we get back on the road for We Supply America. Whoop. I'm not supposed to announce that for another 30 days, but I'm really looking forward to it. So put it in your calendar, 9 a.m. Central every Thursday. Another topic. We'll continue this conversation unapologetically, because this is the year distributors like you approach the market, the customers, everything you do, absolutely unapologetically. Guys, we'll see you next Thursday. Thanks for joining.